Okay, welcome back everyone. This is Cool Club's podcast here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Today, this is a bit special. We've got Anna Nordqvist, LPGA tour player, but more than that, you are a proven tour winner and a three-time major champion. So congratulations
Thank
first
you.
off.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out. Obviously, we're a technology company, we're a club fitting company, and I really want to hone in on that. If we come across anything else on our way, let's do it. But yeah, let's talk equipment. Let's talk about equipment on tour, your experience with equipment, anything that you can do in terms of that golf club space. And let's start off with, you're on contract with Swag right now,
Yes.
and they just handle, some bag, apparel, putter.
Yeah, so Swag is originally a putter company. They're based out of Chicago. I met the owner, Nick, in Scottsdale a couple years ago. And he showed me some of his putters, so I asked if he could send me one. Because at the time, I'd always change putter every 3, 4, 5 months because I never really felt like I could find a putter that I like the feel of. I feel like a lot of them kind of feel like they were coming off a little bit soft, almost like a little bit of a marshmallow, as I was referring it to. So just never really felt like I found a putter that had that really solid. I could feel the ball off the face, and I think that's why I fell in love with. So even before they put me on the team, I played a putter. I think this was in 2019 or 2020. So I played a putter and I loved it. And I only recently changed putter, and I basically changed from their style handsome to a mallet.
Okay. And you've got the mallet here, so
Yes.
I mean, let's show everyone. You can see yourself on the camera there, so deal with the view you like. But what inspired you to go from a blade style to a mallet style?
Yeah, so I didn't putt the best last year. I felt like my game was really close, and sometimes I feel like maybe just switching up a little different look. But this one, yeah, it's a mallet. It's a very clean one. It's called the Boss.
Yeah.
So I had the other putter for good, I think, 3 years.
Okay.
And then this one, now I've been in the bag for a month, and I just picked it up just to kind of play around. It's the off season. You play a few charity events and stuff like that. So, but I really liked the way it was coming off and the way it was looking. So I think for me, it was just a little bit of change of, the look.
There wasn't any marked okay, I'm missing to the right. I want to add a bit more, shape,
No,
size.
I feel like it was really close to make a lot of putts, but I didn't make it. So I think sometimes, you can just change by giving yourself maybe a little bit different confidence or just a little bit of different look. But I think what I've been really impressed with is just the feel of the putter. Obviously, they've gone into some really cool like merchandise and all the head covers, the putter head covers, and all this special stuff. But originally, like, it is a putter company, and I think a lot of people haven't tried their putter, but I strongly encourage them to do, because I feel like they're really onto something, and I've been really pleased with the results, but it also the feel off of it. And I just put this one in play. I had a tournament 2 weeks ago now, and I felt like my distance control was really well because I was able to just get a really good feel of this one. So this one's staying.
Is that what you get when you talk about that soft marshmallow feeling? Do you leave it short more than anything else, or are you kind of inconsistent with the distance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been about like feeling the ball off the face a little bit. And I think when it comes to soft, a lot of putters that have an insert or a different pattern on the face, I feel like it's just a little bit of a different feeling when the ball comes off. Some people might love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have that really fine touch when that happens. Yeah. I know a lot of people talk about on fast greens you want this, or on slow greens you want a certain, but I feel like if I have a good control knowing what the ball does off the face, then I know my putting is going to be in a really good spot.
And I can see that's kind of like a really fine mill on the face, if any.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I mean, this one is really solid. I feel like I have, I think that's why I kept changing around a little bit, because it maybe wasn't ultimately the feeling that I was looking for. And tried a lot of putters in my career. But I think the swag is, there was something about it, the way the ball comes off that I love.
Is that one of the more changed pieces of equipment in your bag, or do you chop around with everything?
Well, the last couple of years, I've had the swag putter, but then everything else in the bag, I've been fortunate to be able to kind of pick and choose whatever I like the best. And it turned out I played Tyler's irons as a junior growing up. I had the 981 strong lofted ones, and I loved those clubs.
So you know your equipment. This is good.
Yeah. Actually, recent went to, I think it was last year. Me and my husband we went to that second swing, or where they have a lot of golf clubs. So I went in there. It was kind of fun because I was trying to find as many different golf clubs as I've played in my career. So it was really cool. I actually ended up finding the set.
Yep.
And they looked amazing. It felt amazing to me as a junior, and obviously now, seeing some other stuff through the years, they look a little bit different, but I feel like those were my winners.
So were you trying to piece that set back together to try and play them again, or were you just trying to find something
No,
like it?
I just wanted to see what they were like. But yeah, so I currently have, I think that's the last couple of years I've had Tyler's irons in my bag. I think there's something about it that I obviously loved as a junior and I still love. So I've been playing those. I have some Tyler's woods, a 3-wood and a driver, and Tyler's wedges, and then I still have my PXG hybrids, the Generation 1. No one's touching those.
You won a major with those?
Yes, I've had those since, I believe it was end of 2017. So those are just two clubs. Like, I love the flight of them. I have a 22 degree. It's basically like a 4-iron instead of a 4-iron. And a 19 degree. And I know where they're going. I know the flight. So they've been really good to me. And they're not going anywhere. So
that means the first iron in your bag is a 5, or do you play the 4 as well?
I used to always play a 4, but ever since I got this PXG 22 degree, I got rid of the 4-iron.
Okay. You just feel like that's easier to flight and manipulate, or why do you put the hybrids in that position?
I mean, I've always had long irons in my bag and never really struggled hitting them, but I think, a 22 degree is a lot easier to hit than a 4-iron, and I think especially the launch. My 22 degree goes about 188. Okay. And it's just very reliable out of the rough.
You can stop it on the green a bit easier.
Yeah, into the wind. And I think definitely, having a little bit of higher launch was one of the goals when I tried it out and trying to replace my 4-iron. But yeah, I mean, I'm getting older, and why make it harder than it should be?
Right. And what happens when you play in those windy conditions? Like, I know, especially at your level of the game, you can't pick and choose your days, right? You're out there in the weather. So I think a lot of people get frightened of the ball going high in that 4-iron or 4 hybrid section.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was trying to do something different last year at the British Open, which, looking back at it, was probably not my best move, by taking out the 22 degree and putting a 4-iron in play, but a little bit bigger, more forgiving model. And I just had no clue where it was going. So it probably wasn't the best choice. But when I hit my 22 degree, I don't have a lot of curve in my ball, but also it comes out pretty well. So even if it goes a little bit higher, it doesn't get really affected by the wind.
Yeah.
And I can play for that. I'll know how much the wind is. So I felt like, I'd rather be able to control and know what the club's going to do than maybe, play around with a 4-iron. Because it's only, you're looking at maybe a Scottish Open and a British Open every year. Like, there's not that many tournaments where you really want to mix it up.
Yeah, and leading up to that, like, how far in advance were you thinking, okay, I might do something different here?
Well, I've always had, even though I've been carrying a 22 degree now since 2017, but I've always kept a 4-iron, even though, it's sitting in my closet or in my garage most of the times. I didn't even bring it out. Sometimes I'll hit it a little bit, maybe a couple months leading up to an event where I might put it in. But I think the 22 degree is one of my best clubs in my bag. So for me, it just hasn't been really been a reason why to change it. But if I change an iron set, I always order through a 4-iron, so I have that option if I want to put it in.
Awesome. Just touching on a little bit more of the bag layout. What do you do with your wedges then? You play a pitching wedge, and then do you play like 3 bladed wedges, or you play a gap wedge within the set? How do you lay that out?
Yeah, so so pitching wedge through 5-iron is the same shaft. And I've always carried 3 wedges, and it happens to be 58, 54, and 50, because that's always helped my gapping from my pitching wedge. And I've always kept it that way. A few times in my career, I got a gap wedge part of the set. Yeah. I don't usually use my gap wedge a ton, like around the greens and stuff. So I felt it was more like a distance thing. And I always felt like maybe a 50 degree. I think mine's currently bent to maybe a 49, just because it worked well with the gapping. But I always felt like my 50 or 49 degree wouldn't go as far as maybe a gap wedge.
Yeah.
And spin has never really been an issue for me on those wedges, but it's just more like a distance. So I've had a gap wedge, but I currently have like a 49 degree in my bag.
Okay. And then when you get into those 54, 58, do you mess around with the grinds throughout the year, or do you kind of, this is the wedges that I play and they stay for the season?
No, usually I have the same. When I switched to Tyler's wedges, I think it was back in 2020 maybe, I worked with my short-game code, like Parker McLaughlin, a lot of with bounces. We tried a few different ones, see what I liked, and what was like kind of helping me. And ever since, I've stayed in the same grinds. And there again, I mean, some people like to have an option to put in another grind, but again, it's 1 or 2 weeks you're talking about, and I'd rather have a wedge that I know what it's going to do.
Right.
And yeah, you might not benefit on certain shots with a little bit more bounce, but I like to keep it simple. So these wedges, I'm still in the SM8s. I tried the 9s last year, but if I like something and it's not much big of a difference, I didn't really see a reason to change. So yeah, I like to keep it simple and play in the things I have, unless there's something that's just feels a lot better.
So lots of comfortability about the bag, but you know what you've got, and you know what you're going to do with it, and that's what stays. Unless there's a massive improvement, you're not going to move around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last year the shafts, I had a recoil shaft in my irons. I worked with actually Chris Ferguson at Cool Clubs in let's see, it was in 2021 about finding an iron shaft that felt good. So I think we tried about 20 different ones.
Sounds like Fergie.
Yeah, and I settled on the recoils. They were good. I mean, I won the AIG Women's Open with them, so they were great. But in the spring last year, 2022, I felt like I struggled a little bit with the distance, but also in wind, I feel like they were climbing a bit, so they didn't really fully feel like I knew what was happening. I couldn't really control them in wind, and wind's always been kind of a strong part for me. So then we changed shafts back to a 950, I think, a Nippon shaft,
yep.
But stiff, and I never play those. But Matt Rollins from Tyler's helped me, and then I also changed to the Pro V1 golf ball from the Pro V1 X, just to help with the flight. But I noticed last year they were like a little bit heavier, a little harder to hit throughout the season, and I was kind of exhausted too after the summer. So towards the end of the year, I started looking for maybe a little bit easier shaft to constantly hit, especially maybe when I am a little bit more tired. So I went to Titleist in Carlsbad and spent some time there. Had the 850S turn out to be the best ones, and also go a little bit light in the wedges because I had a 105 wedge shaft last year. So kind of been messing around with that a little bit. But during the first event, I really struggled with my irons, and that's usually pretty uncommon. There was a little bit of swing, but also the 850s, they were kind of like coming out a little bit right. So, been messing around a little bit lately, and I just got a new KBS shaft.
You got PGIs?
The PGIs, yeah. Again, that's, I hit him, and I said to the tour rep, TK, I said, these are pretty good, because that day, the first day I put them in, I think I hit 5 or 6 approach shots within 3 feet. So
that helps.
Yeah, so that was last week. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
But that PGI shaft is, I think it's in like over 40 players on tour.
Yeah, I know a lot of girls have liked it. I started testing it a little bit last year towards the end. I tried the other one. I'd ordered a set from Titleist, so they built me one. So I was kind of comparing that one to the 850s, and I gave KBS some feedback on it. I said, hey, I really didn't feel like this was good for me, but he said, well, no wonder, because they built you the wrong shaft. So they had sent me the TGI instead of the
the PGI is the newer
PGI.
version, yeah.
Yeah, so I got those reshafted, and those are currently in my bag. So yeah, I feel like it's a little bit never ending, like trying to find a feel, but so far I've been really liking them, and
yeah,
I like most of the stuff in my bag, so there's just no reason to tweak unless I'm looking for something special.
I just want to dive into the numbers a little bit, because I think we know the general golfing population is white males that are like 50 something years old, so they all kind of swing it in this 95 mile an hour driver bracket. Where's your driver speed at?
My driver speed is probably around 95 right now. In tournaments, 96. When I'm at my best, maybe 97, 98. I never had any fast twitch muscle, so I've always been kind of slow. It's something I've, through my career, I had to work really hard at. But yeah, I'm a slow player.
That's okay.
Unfortunately.
But you're a 3-time major winner, so speed isn't
Yeah,
everything.
I must have done something right, I guess.
Right, but that's a good information. Like most people watching Rory McIlroy out there swinging at 120 miles an hour with a driver, they should be watching you swing the driver. You are more like the average golfer out there in terms of speed. What's your driver shaft that you're playing right now?
That's a good question.
I've stumped you. It's in the bag behind you. Do you want to get it? Just see.
Yeah, let's
take a little break for 1 second here. We can grab it. Okay, it's a Ventus. A Fuji Ventus 5S. So it's a 50-gram golf shaft. There's a stiff flex. And you did some testing to get into that?
Yeah, so it was funny. Obviously in 2021, I won my 3rd major. But prior to that, I had struggling a little bit with the driver shaft. I had a driver my miss was 15 yards left.
Okay.
And we played around a little bit with shafts. So actually Tuesday of the AIG Women's Open, I went to Aventus Red. I think I had a hazardous shaft or something like that.
Yeah. And
it just wasn't anything that I felt like was right for me. So I actually changed driver the week of AIG Women's Open. It went a lot higher, and it took out the left miss. So I put it in play, and obviously it was great in the week. But you coming down, you have a little bit of extra adrenaline, and my miss been 20 yards left, and all of a sudden this shaft kind of kicking. I think it's a little bit right biased. So all of a sudden my miss was like 10 yards right, 15 yards right. So that got me a little bit in trouble on the Sunday of AIG Women's Open, because I was really pumped up. And a lot of times, it takes a while to learn a club and kind of know your misses and just know how it reacts. Maybe if you get a little quick or. So all of a sudden I went from a 15, 20 yard miss left to a high right one, or a 10 yards or 15 yards right. So it got me in trouble in a few holes, just because it was a new club and I been used to the left one. So, maybe the same swing would have gone a little bit left, and now I went right. So it's funny how they work. But after that, I think I went into this blue Ventus, knowing that it wasn't as right biased, and I've been playing it ever since.
Yeah. So that was the hazardous red that was going.
No, it was the Ventus Red.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Venice red. Yeah. Okay, and then the blues just softened it up a little bit for you.
Yes,
Feel like
exactly.
you can out. See, I mean, I just want to get across the point here to the average golfer that's out there. You know, you're one of the best players out there, and the golf club is not letting you hit the shot you want. You know, in that first instance where you've got that left. You know,
Yeah.
people say, best golfers in the world, they can manipulate their swing to do it. Well, you don't really want to, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to swing your swing and let the golf club do the work. So helping people understand, like marrying that equipment into your game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more important than a lot of people think about. But also, I mean, I might like one feel I never liked when like an iron shaft or something's been kicking a lot in the bottom. But the way they build a lot of those lighter shafts is with a kick in the bottom.
Yeah.
So that's why I sometimes struggle finding a lighter shaft that I felt good about because I didn't like the kick in the bottom.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's, what I like and what someone else might like is going to be total difference. And I think that's why it's worth spending some time. And, sometimes it could be a little frustrating in process and knowing, I mean, it doesn't maybe kick the way you wanted to. But then when you do find that right fit, there's just nothing better, and it is worth all the effort to get there.
On the golf course at that point, your brain is not on the equipment. You're just making the swings, you're seeing the shots, right?
Yeah, and I think that's too, you don't want to just constantly change stuff because it takes a while to learn a driver. I put in the TSR 3 for the last 2 events last year, and in Japan was my first week. I just got in the club and already on the range. I'm like, this is going right. Just the way the club had like my normal swing, like it just leaks a little bit right. It's not a miss that I'm used to. So obviously I have to kind of adjust, putting in all the draw settings over the phone and stuff like that. But I felt like it was still worth trying. But those fairways were really narrow and a lot of them on tilt. So it just took me a while. I mean, that week was kind of a little bit of a learning curve, and then I went on to the tour championship the following week in Naples, and I hit the drive really well, and it definitely was a big reason why I finished third that week, because I hit it really well. But again, it took a little bit of learning curve, so I probably gave up some in Japan, but I gained it back once I knew what was happening.
Yeah, well, it's kind of set up for your season now. You've got all like the latest equipment in the bag. You've done your shaft testing. Hopefully, TK and the guys at KBS can finalise that spec in the irons for you. And I think you're on the right track there. Just knowing TK works pretty closely with us, but those PGIs are doing really good and much smooth feel, but a kind of a really stable golf shaft. So
yeah, I mean it's the same thing. Like I came in with my irons and Chris though here it was like, oh, these irons are shorter. All of a sudden, like the company started sending me shorter irons than I'm used to. Just stuff like that, I always check my clubs once they come from a manufacturer because they rarely are on point, unfortunately.
I just want to jump in like a really quick story there, and this is, I think people don't really understand how in tune you guys are with your golf equipment. And you brought in a couple of grips, a couple of weeks back now, and you said, these feel a little smaller. So I get out, I'm measuring calipers, and I measure them, and you're right. Like these two grips in your bag are a hair smaller, and basically they'd used the same grip, but just a slightly different core size on every other club in your bag, and you pick up your wedges and you can feel it. 99% of golfers would not feel that. So you are really, really in tune with your gear. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've done this for a while, and I feel like I always had to be pretty responsible, or just felt like I needed to know my stuff, because there just is small things happening. They come in the wrong lie angles, or they, came in a little bit shorter than normal, or like the grip size is different. I mean, I've always been a 58 round, but all of a sudden, like a 58 round feels weird because then they maybe
I think you had 60s all the way on the rest of the bag, and then 58s in there, and it was like it just feels off, right?
Yeah, so it's just small things like that. It's like you try some clubs and you can instantly maybe in a swing or two feel like, okay, this has potential, or this is not for me.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I hope that helps someone out there with their golf equipment, just understanding what you go through and the level of your game, the detail you go to. And if you believe in it, I think everyone should believe in club fitting. And great work with Swag. Maybe we should get Swag in and look at their putters. It sounds like great equipment. So shout out to those guys. Hopefully we see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Cheers.